Hey, how are you doing today? So I've got a few little things to start exploring. One of the big things that I want to start exploring is my experiences that I've been having with weight release. So I'm going to see where I go with this today. I want to try and do a few videos on this and keep them short and cover quite a broad topic with a few videos. So where to start? We might as well start with where I am. Okay, so it's a good place to start with where I am and then go back maybe from where I am to how I came to this place with my thoughts on weight, physical. So here we are talking about physical weight, physical body weight. We're going to talk a little bit about food. I'm going to talk a little bit about the energy. I have already got a couple of videos on the energy that we put in food and water and how that can impact how our body reacts to it and how our body feels about it, and the emotions that we put into our food being part and parcel with how our body then stores that food. So some of this is theory and conjecture, some of this is personal opinion, some of this is a little bit evidence-based, although I'm not going to go and produce the evidence. If you want to go research it, then go research it. There's different things, different trains of thought on this now around it not all being about the food that we consume, that our mental and emotional state play a big role in body health. So go look some stuff up for yourself. This is my personal opinion. I am not a nutritionist. I am not a diet expert. Ugh, don't even like that word diet. I think a lot of the diet industry has kept people in a yo-yo weight status. Because, hey, the diet industry is another industry making money out of people's health. And if you help someone fix something forever, they're never going to pay you another penny. So if people never get sick again, they're never going to pay the doctor any more money. They're never going to pay the pharmaceutical industry any more money. They're never going to pay the diet industry any more money if they get down to a healthy, happy feeling weight for themselves and never have to buy into another diet service. So, and a lot of these diet services now make food products and make thousands, millions from the food products that they sell under their name. I'm not going to mention any names of any specific diets. I'm not going to pinpoint any one as being worse than any other. My belief is that any system of anything, pretty much, not just food, but as an unschooling mum, screen time, anything that begins to restrict and criticize and create dense emotion around whatever it is, people end up in a spiral or a yo-yo or a unhealthy relationship with. Go with relationships with people too, but let's not go down any more tangents than we're already likely to. So I have been in this place for 7 years now, where I am not happy totally with my shape and size. 8 years if you include the broken stomach muscles from the last baby. So when I had my third baby 8.5 years ago, she was massive, she was a big baby. I had my abdominal muscles were torn, as is quite common, particularly in third, fourth, fifth, sixth pregnancies, as is quite common with big babies. And probably age, I was 30 something, 6, I think, 37 when she was born. And one of the many things I discovered through the course of the first 2 years after she was born, where I was realising there were certain things I couldn't do to tone my stomach back up. And yeah, not going down that tangent. I'll talk about that another time. Lots and lots of suggested ways to tone your stomach muscles you can't do when you've got or had a diastasis recti. I've got a fresh new diastasis recti. That's the name of the torn abdominal muscles from pregnancy, and other things. There's other reasons why you can end up with a diastasis recti. Most common one is pregnancy. But there's things that you can't do. So I knew I could become aware of these things I shouldn't do exercise-wise, that I probably would have done. But on top of that, mentally and emotionally, I was not in a good place. We've talked about this before. This is where my mental health went down the pan. The world was not looking good. I was not feeling happy with how my life was panning out. I had lots and lots of healing to start diving into and processing, and where I am today because I did that. Along with our financial situation at the time, to make and ensure that my girls ate enough good, nutritious, beneficial food and weren't lacking and weren't going hungry. As a breastfeeding mum of an 18-month-old baby, I was going hungry. I was eating their leftovers of 3 girls, and at the time they would have been 7, 5, and the baby. I was probably eating 1 meal a day, drinking about 8 cups of coffee, filter coffee, albeit good organic filter coffee. I was living on coffee, leftovers, and 1 meal a day. And sometimes that meal was quite small because I was eating what was left. I would then go and, when I could, go and eat cake. Where I am, the town I am in, there's a lot of nice gluten-free cakes in lots of the cafes, and tend to stay away from wheat. So I would go one particular cafe that made the nicest white chocolate and raspberry gluten-free cake ever, and I would just go and eat a piece of cake and have their £1 cups of coffee. And so there was this anxiety and fear and worry around money, coupled with this, I'm going to go and have a cheeky piece of cake, which, whilst I was not in a place of feeling bad for eating the cake, there is that hang-up still, or there was at the time, that it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure. During that time, about 18 months, my weight went up from about 11 stone. I did pretty much get back to, not pre-pregnancy weight, but back to what is deemed a healthy weight of about 11 stone, maybe just under 11 stone, 10 stone 9 or 11 or something. And then over that course of 18 months, up till the baby being about 3, so that was the year my mum died, my weight went up, crept up. Now, I was going hungry. I was anxious and worried, not in a good place mentally and emotionally. And I watched weight start to creep on. And looking now, like, at me, it is on predominantly around my belly. Now, physically, if I went to see a doctor or went to see any sort of medical person, they'd start saying that that weight there would be a precursor to diabetes. And this is how we create disease in ourselves, by thinking and worrying about this. And since there's diabetes in the family, that's where that fear and projection then creates that thing. We could talk about that another time. If you don't agree, feel free to let me know. But we'll leave that one there for now, because this is where I was. Went up from just under 11 stone to 12.5 stone, which is deemed overweight for my height. And then in 2018, when my mum was sick, things were picking up. I was actually not going hungry so often. I'd started on this inner journey and this self-care journey, and I was realising that my lack mentality and that my poverty mentality were actually making me sick in more ways than physically, and that I was holding myself back from receiving more to get more food for myself by thinking that I was too poor to feed myself. Again, more stuff that we can talk about another time. So I was starting to eat better. And then when my mum was in hospital and dying, so this time of year, June, July of 2018, my mum passed in July 2018. I spent a month at my dad's and was not eating again very well, and hadn't been since she'd been getting sicker earlier on in that year. It was only about 3 months from her going in and out of hospital a couple of times to diagnosis to her passing. And in that time, my weight then crept up from 12, just over 12.5 stone to 13.5 stone. When I left my dad's, after we'd had the funeral, I was 13.5 stone. All through this, I knew it was nothing to do with what I was eating. When I was eating, most of it was what would be deemed healthy food. I knew it was down to emotions. I knew it was down to storing the emotional energy. I knew already from my exploring of intuitive eating, which is what I've been doing for about 12 years, that the emotions and the shame and the guilt that we heap on ourselves for what we eat play a role in how our body stores the energy that we take in physically from the food. It's a big subject. It's a huge subject. So after she passed away, I was just gentle with myself. I was never ever going to catch me talking about being on a diet anyway. But I just was gentle with myself. Came home, ate well, did what I had to do. During the course of this time, it would have been, where I was listening to the late great Bob Proctor. Look him up if you've not come across him before. And he said something. He was like one of the people whose resources I was exploring with, I guess, with things like the law of attraction and wealth and money and that side of things, business, running things as well. And one of the things he said in one of the videos that I watched from him, and I heard him talk about it several times, and I don't know why this doesn't catch on more in the health and wellness industry, in the holistic health fields. I see a lot of people talking about weight loss, and I see a lot of people talking about the emotional impact that the impact on our weight physically that our emotions have. The impact emotions have on our weight. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of people talking about that, but they don't pick up on this one big, massive thing, which to me is like a key to it all. But maybe it's again because if the diet industry start talking about this, then maybe they'll actually have people who release weight and never get it back again, and then they're fucked. Because then, if that was the key, if the key was the words that we use when we talk about releasing weight, then that itself could cause people to be out millions of dollars. So what Bob said was, what emotions do we store and do come into us when we think of the word loss, or losing, or lost? So what sort of things, other than weight, do we talk about losing? Well, I've already talked about one, losing my mum, losing loved ones, death. The fear and anxiety of losing a little one if you're out somewhere. Never mind the awful emotions if you lose a young one of your own babies to death. If you lose something physical like your keys or your phone or money, credit cards, debit cards. If you lose a bet, if you lose investment stocks, if you lose your job, what emotions come up when you think about all those things? It's like, whoa. Well, nothing good. Certainly not celebrating losing any of those things. There's grief, there's sadness, there's worry, there's anxiety, there's fear, there's guilt, all those things when we think about losing anything else. And yet we talk about losing weight, and this was probably one of the things that started me on this fun exploration with words that I have too, and how I like those words that I don't like saying because I know the meaning behind them, or the double meaning behind them, and I'm like, I don't want to bring that into my energy. And using the words weight loss was probably the first one of many, and I was already on this like, I don't diet, I don't talk about dieting, I don't talk about food as being healthy and unhealthy, or good and bad. We don't refer to any food as junk food. I don't even go down the treat route, like food is just food in our house and they can eat what they want when they want, and that's pretty much always been the case. And just while it's in my head, this doesn't mean that I don't think that other health factors can play a role in how and why people store weight, that there are other external either situations, either toxins within the body that can affect how weight is stored, or toxins in the food that we eat that can affect how that impacts how we store that energy within us. If we're talking about food being what causes us to store weight, because, talk to some breatharians and see how they feel about food. That's a whole exploration for me one day maybe, but right now I do love food. So this whole weight loss thing impacted me quite significantly. I was like, wow, this is a massive key to why people don't keep weight off when they've released it, when they've got a couple of pounds, a couple of stone off, when they've got a few inches down, it's always about loss. And even, and I've spoke about this probably not quite as much as this, but I've wrote some posts in the past about stop talking about losing weight, stop adding that energy of loss and grief and worry and fear and any of that energy into your weight, because you're just setting yourself right back to finding it. Because all those things, when we lose them, what do we want? Well, if it's anything that we can get back again, keys, wallet, your little ones if you've lost them at the market, we want to find them again. Now again, we've talked on this, our subconscious don't know the difference. Our subconscious is like, oh shit, she's lost weight. Fuck, hold on a minute, we better get that back again. Oh, hold on, what can we do to get it back? And that's where the body's inbuilt sensors to keep you healthy and alive will store whatever it needs. Now, whether it's storing it from the food or storing it from the energy that you're taking just energetically from around you, it's storing energy to keep you alive should something terrible happen. Put all that pained energy into you of losing something, your subconscious don't know any different. So when it comes to weight, I always talk about releasing it and shedding it, and I do with EFT. I do support people with eating disorders. We're happy to gain it if that's what we need, and it is gaining it. If you gain weight and it's not necessarily wanted, it's still a gain. But yeah, I talk about releasing and shedding and letting it go, because what happens if you release something? You release a bird into the wild, do you want it to come back again? Not usually. If you've nurtured and helped like a injured wild creature, do you want it to come back again when you release it? No. I use shed because animals that shed their skin, snakes, spiders, us, we shed our skin or our hair. Animals, when they shed their fur, do they want it back again? No. Once it's gone, once it's shed, it's not coming back. So release and shed are my two words when it comes to physical weight. And one of the things that I've watched this happen with the shedding of the weight is when I've done emotional clearing. I've done deep, intense emotional clearing processes. In 2019, just not quite a year after my mum died, I did proper, deep, intense energy clearing for the first time. Cleared 7 energy centres. And in that 8 weeks, I watched my weight drop from 13.5 stone to just around the 13 stone mark. And that was it for me. That was the proof I needed that it was about energy, because nothing changed in what I ate or what I did, and I was much less active, more active now than I was then. Nothing, like I wasn't doing anything different. I wasn't dieting, I wasn't restricting or reducing anything that I ate, and that was what was happening. The weight was falling off, it was going. And it sort of hovered around the 13 stone mark for a bit, and then as I've done other energy clearing processes, when I created the quantum energy clearing process in 2021, I started to see it dropping into that 12 stone, late 12 stone, sort of between 12.10 and 12.13. In the last, obviously then 2020 hit, and what I've realised in this year, 2023, what I've realised this year is what happened in 2020 for myself, for the world, the underlying energetics that have been playing a role in my life since 2020 impacted me emotionally a lot more than I realised until earlier this year. And that was when I was like, oh my god, yeah, literally. There was a lot more emotional stuff going on for me than I realised. And it's only as I've explored my human design more and I've realised that my open emotional centre, my solar plexus, means that I just take on so much of this energy from other people, so much of these emotions from other people, I see so much of like helping and other people to release their emotions so much that I'm very good at not storing them consciously within myself and holding myself in a state of those dense emotions, worry or fear or grief or anything like that myself now. But that doesn't mean that they don't physically impact me in some way. And I know this from when I've done healings on people and then the next day I have physical symptoms like theirs. That's been a practice for me to explore as I've explored healing more, that I need to clear my own energy out of what I've taken when I've been listening or when I've been doing healing for people and letting that go. But my weight has crept back into that 13 stone size weight again. So here when we talk about weight, we're talking about physical mass. Again, the physical mass of how what we weigh physically on a scale. There's more to weight than that if it's talking about emotions as well. We're talking about emotional weight, and we talk about the weight of the world on our shoulders when we've got anxieties or worries or concerns. We do talk about emotions and mental concerns as weight as well. So with this in mind, I have been contemplating ways to deal with this energetically again. I was pushing up to the 13 and a half stone. I was 13 stone 6 about 6 weeks ago. I think it's 6, maybe 7 weeks ago. And I was like looking at ways to help and explore this. And in my exploration of crystals to create crystal elixirs, one of the websites that I used to buy my crystals from while I was getting some for grief to make an elixir, they sell crystals for, wait for it, weight loss. And I was like, that's like, jeez. I was like, no, but let's have a look at these crystals and what they do. So I looked at the crystals they've got in this package, and I thought, right, they're all good crystals for it. The weight loss thing, I'm not actually going to buy that package from the website for myself, because those words are in those crystals that come in, and it's more than I want to do is cleansing the energy from those crystals that have been associated with weight loss. So I bought the crystals for myself, for this elixir, myself, from local shop, from market, from online. And I made my crystal elixir, letting it go. And again, as I made the elixir, as with all my elixirs, none of what I'm releasing is ever put into that elixir. So there was no thought of the physical heaviness of the weight in there. It was all about releasing. And of course, because the mental and emotional affect the physical, there was also the codes imprinted in this elixir for emotional and mental weight release too, and spiritual, like energetic weight release. I've been taking this elixir now for 6 weeks. I'll just do the maths. Just thinking about where we are in the moon cycle and when I will have made it. Yeah, 6 weeks. And I already could feel the difference in the emotional weight within me and the mental weight. There's been a mental clarity, there's been a lightness of my spirit and energy coming more and more. But for 3 weeks, the scale wasn't shifting, and I'm like, okay, I'm not actually going to set any worry into that, because I know it's happened in the past where the weight comes off, it's released physically, so it's not even part of it. I generally feel lighter. I've also been practicing, because what I want to create with my elixirs is little bundles. People can just buy the elixirs, but they can also buy a package of a meditation and some EFT. So along with taking the elixir, which I was also only doing once a day in 1 bottle of water, so 5 drops once a day, I started doing some EFT, because I have used EFT for weight release in the past and had some success with that, but not consistently. And even now I'm not using it consistently. Should do some EFT for being consistent, to be honest. But I use EFT. I've been using the visualization processes as well. I do through other meditations that I do. And this week, six weeks on into taking the elixir, the scales are dropping. Now, I only actually weigh myself so that I can monitor these things for, I guess, marketing purposes. I really am not bothered. For me, actually, for days before the scale said any different, I was like, the physical shape of my abdomen, where, the 11-pound baby grew 8 years ago, and whilst the diastasis recti is healed, there's still no muscle tone there. So the shape of it does often make me look like I'm still 9 months pregnant. I get comments at least a couple of times a month, little sideways glances about, are you having a baby, or when's it due, or outright questions, or outright statements. And yeah, I'm not. I noticed the shape of it changing, and I'm like, I've got some photographs from a while ago, but should have really documented this better. I measured last night, and there's an 1.5 inches gone from what there was. Probably about 8 weeks ago I measured, because I was comparing my husband. I was measuring my husband for jeans, and I want to prove that you're bigger than me, because he don't necessarily believe me. And I know that it's smaller than it was 5 years ago, when I had skirts made, and when it was relaxed what it measured, as opposed to when I just breathed in and held it in to the state that if I actually had some muscle tone, it'd be all my internal organs hanging out. So that's where I am with this. And this is a little bit of an intro to what I want to talk more on, this whole concept of why food needs to be given love and happiness and appreciation, rather than guilt and anxiety and, oh my god, this is such a bad food for me to eat, but I'm going to eat it anyway. And then we're just like heaping guilt into ourselves. I want to talk much more on that. I want to explore this whole weight release concept more for people, because I think so many people, even if they want to use a traditional diet, would fare so much better if their subconscious knew they were releasing this shit to go forever and not losing it because they want it to come back again, little sneaky back. And then the body's wondering why the fuck you're not happy. You got it back. You lost this thing and you found it again. Why are you not happy? I'm like, and then obviously when you do that, when you have dieted and then viewing the weight as a loss and then got it back again, of course you heap more like self-judgment on yourself, or more resentment on yourself having gained weight again, or any of those things that are just not helping the body to let it go from an emotional and energetic perspective. So yeah, big thing for this one, stop calling it weight loss. If you want to let it go forever. Release it, let it go, shed it, bye bye, it's not coming back. Change that word. And even if you are going to use the biggest mainstream diet out there, it'll stay off. And you'll not have to ever go back to any other meetings for your weight, diet, whatever program that you're on. You'll just be free. So yeah, try it. And it just does feel so much better in the energy when you talk about, wow, I've let that go. I've just released half a stone of weight. Feel lighter emotionally and energetically for it, and physically can feel the change in my body, and it ain't ever coming back. And just feel how that feels in your body. That's it for this one. It's a big one. It's going to be more, but that's where we are right now. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be back again soon.